I think what is it? The patriarchy also has like a lot of like cultural components towards it that I think even though it does put men into power, it is like I think in a lot of ways detrimental to men's like health overall. So for example, like in our society, a lot of things that we consider to be integral to being a leader, I don't think actually follow leadership and actually are like really bad for the individual. So this idea of, for example, somebody who doesn't show emotion, like stoicism, but to the extreme, right? People often are like, oh, you see that person, that means that they're so rational, that means that they're so logical because they're not showing any emotion. But that doesn't necessarily mean that internally that's what's going on, right? That's why you have like people who go into like, you know, you'd never know it, but then they commit self-deletion, right?
Is stoicism something which is considered preferable in a leader?
I would argue that our culture as a whole, yeah, they see people who are like
extreme stoicism, emotionalists. I'm not sure about that.
I think the way
I would say like leadership, you would be looking at things like charisma. Charisma would be a really big one. That would be something that people would gravitate towards. Good decision making, confidence, competence, all of those things I would kind of put in as leadership skills. I'm not sure that people really gravitate towards extreme stoicism.
The reason, or a big
or
reason,
emotionalists. In fact, I think that the reason you call them charismatic leaders, right, is because in leadership roles, when people are very charismatic, they tend to have people drawn and attracted.
Let me phrase it this way.
Yeah.
Do you think a person who showcases sadness, do you think society in general would look down on that person, up on that person, neutral to that person?
Depending on the situation.
Yeah.
If for instance, for men, I think that the only time it's really appropriate for them to cry is in extreme cases. So I always give the example of like somebody closest to you dies, or a close personal friend dies, and that's basically it. That's about the only times that you're really allowed to cry about anything. But there's good reasons for that. And one of the good reasons for that is, especially if you're the leader of a family, right? You don't really want to be falling apart very often. And you do have to kind of hide your emotions a bit so that you can lead your family correctly. Your children look up to you. Everybody looks up to you. You have to make sure that you're leading the household in a correct way so that everybody has confidence in your competence.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And I do agree that stability is like a good showcase of being a leader. But then to me, being able to only cry when somebody dies, that for me takes it to a little bit too much of an extreme. Yeah. I think that there are other scenarios that make sense for you to cry.
Well, hang on. Let's focus on the one thing at a time. So let's just take the like over emotion or whatever. Okay? Do you think that men view women who cry very differently than how women view men who cry?
Yes, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah, but you might think that it's wrong, right? But could there be a biological sense of reason for why that might be?
I assume that the argument you're going to get to is that like, men are supposed to be protectors, and if a person's crying, can they protect you?
No, I think that it's actually different. I think that crying for women can also be a form of self-defense and manipulation, whereas physical strength can't be.
Grid 1
So I think that they'll often employ what are called
As an actual rich old white man, I disavow any control over Pixie. She created her own Treyrick. I also disavow any oppression of anyone, and feel personally attacked. You know nothing of my work.
Oh my gosh. All right. You want to be my
Yes,
sugar
I'd say
daddy?
that there's defense mechanisms which are in play for both. And so for men who cry, if other men see it, even at an intuitive level, we don't have any respect for it. It makes you more prone for attack and things like this. Whereas for women, they can often be employed to great use against men who are much stronger sex. Whereas if you were to take a look at this for how women perceive other women who cry, they seem to be able to see through the bullshit super quick, right? They're like, that bitch is full of shit. That chick is full of shit. I don't believe her. It's crocodile tears. They seem to be able to see right through it. So I would say that no, I don't think it's just a matter of your environment trains you what's okay to do when it comes to these types of emotions, but there's something which is ingrained.
Yeah, I don't know like to what degree or what level we will agree or disagree with this on. I think I do kind of strongly disagree, and I guess I strongly disagree because I do think human or emotions, I think, are a very normal part of human processing.
Yeah, I'm not
Being
saying
able
that they're
to feel-
not.
Yeah,
I
but,
don't mean to cut you off. Go
okay.
ahead.
I think emotions are a very normal part of human processing, and I think part of that is like being like crying, happiness, sadness, excitement, anger. And I think in our society we punish men when they show the sadness. We view them as weak.
Yeah, but
and I
women
don't
punish them as
no.
women punish them.
Yeah, women. If you want to say if we're gonna go back to talking about the patriarchy and stuff like that, women definitely uphold the patriarchy.
No.
in a
What
lot
I'm
of
saying
ways.
is that it's not. I'm not sure that what you're talking about really as a patriarchy is some kind of fundamental system or a bunch of people trying to stay in power, as much as it is the way that humans actually interact with each other, because we're distinct, ontologically different creatures.